right? So what we will cover? So we will cover introduction to Python. What are the tools which are required for Python? So what is Python programming, right? What are the versions which are available in Python, right? So this topic and introduction we will see, right?
Okay.
Okay. So this is also related to data science, particularly, right? So
Okay.
we have our what is data science? So as you know that for the machine learning and your computer vision or your neural networks, you also need your Python language, right? So to work with and to come up with some kind of an inference or to predictions, right? So we will
Hmm.
see what are the tools which are required for data science, with what is the history of Python and some Python IDs, right? So this is very important. ID is just like an editor which you work with. Okay. So for example, English is a language, just like Python is a language, right? So to work with your English language, you need some additional tools. You need a pen, you need a paper, you need a cardboard. Similarly, to work with Python, you need some IDs. That is your integrated development environment, in which you could write your code, you could compile it and send it to the hardware so that it can successfully give you back the results. Okay,
Okay.
right? Okay, so now, okay, so let's dive into the evolution of Python. So Python was developed by Gaudio van Rossum in the late 80s in the National Research Institute for Mathematics and Computer Science at Netherlands. Okay, so far so many editions of Python have evolved and it is continuously evolving. So the current version of Python which we gonna work is Python 3.8. Earlier we were working with Python 3.7, right? So now like a few days back only, maybe a month or an ago, so Python has released this newer version, that is your 3.8, which is the stable version, right? So 3.9 is on the dev version and it will be released soon, right? And earlier we were using Python 2.7. So now many companies are still using Python 2.7 in their companies, in their environments. So this Python 2.7 will be absolute by the end of this year. Okay, so they need to upgrade their Python to Python 3.7 onwards, or they can use Python 3.7 or 3.8, right? So they can use it. So this was like Python 3.8 we will be working on, and I will tell you how we can download the Python, how we can start working, and you can have your first hello world program written in Python language. Okay, so let's see what are the advantages of Python. So Python has several features that make it well suited for data science, scripting, and lot many stuff, right? So it is open source and it is community development, right? So it is developed under open source initiative approved license, making it free to use and distribute even commercially. This means you can also write some code and contribute to the Python community, where they can look up your code, and then if they approve it, they will put it in the Python library, right? So it is free of cost, nothing you need to pay, and you can also contribute to the society or the community. Then the syntax is very simple and easy to understand, and it combines well with the majority of the cloud platform service providers. So these cloud platform service providers, I mean to see the AWS. So right now, as we see in the companies, in the industry, so our servers has been hosted into their cloud, that is AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, right? So these are also have the compatibility of the Python. You can write your code, you could uh, do some scaling purposes, Lambda services, lot many things in that Python language also. So let us try to analyze your C versus Python. So in this slide, you can see that writing a simple print statement in C involves lot many commands. So these are the commands. First, you need to include some library, then you need to write a function, then you have a variable initialized, then you have a count, and then you will print it, right? So this is how you can print this C version in your this print command in the C version. But in the Python, you could only write one statement and you could write this part. So this you can see that you can compare, so how simple it is. Okay, so this I will not throw paper airplanes in class, you need to write 500 times. For that you have introduced some loop. That loop has to be initialized by 1, and it will run up till 500 times, and the counter keeps on incrementing, and it will print. So this is how your code follows. But in the Python language or the Pythonic way, you can see that you could simply write print, and you can multiply this statement into 500 times, right? So how easy it is to write some simple print statement in the Python language. Okay, so now this is the integrated development environment which I was talking about. So English is a language and Python is also a language. English is understandable by human beings and we can easily communicate it. So Python is the language of the computers, or you can see that it's a machine level language code, or a language which is understandable by the computers or the hardwares, right? So we need to write something. That code has to be interpreted by the hardware, and it can give us the results back, right? Because the computer can only understand the language of zeros and ones. So we need to write something that could be converted into the byte codes in terms of zeros and ones, and can be understandable by the hardware so that it can give us the results back, right? So that compilation or the executing is done by this integrated development environment. Okay, so it is a software application which is consisting of a tools required for development. So is a tool for the developer, right? So developer can easily work on these tools or this environment so that it could efficiently write their Python code. And it is used to or designed to simplify the software development process. And it comes with the variety of the utilities that includes your managing your code, compiling your code, deploying and debugging. For example, we are writing some code and some error occurs, so it will auto correct us that in this part or in this line some error has occurred, you need to correct it. This language or this syntax is not understandable by the machine level, so you need to first correct this part. So that help it gives us for the developer so that it can easily write their code. Then features, it consists of source code editor in where we could write our code, and we have a compiler debugger which compiles our code into the byte code, right, so that we could get the results back, and debugger for the debugging purposes. The additional features include your syntax and error highlighting. As I already told you that if something is wrong in that statement, it will auto correct us or it will highlight the error, then this piece of information is wrong. Then we have the code completion, autocomplete, and the version control. What is version control? In the companies we have a centralized repository where we could upload our code, because so many developers are working on a similar project, right? So we need to have a version updated, so you can easily integrate the version control systems or the versioning of your code, and you could send it to the centralized repository. And it is a feature of this IDE. Now, what are the commonly used IDs? So there are variety of IDs which are available freely in the market, right? So there's a Spyder, which is also widely used. We have PyCharm, we have Jupyter Notebook, we have Visual Studio Code. So these all are our IDs. These are our tools for the developer so that we can efficiently write the Python language or do some programming, right? So one by one we will see this interface, and we will try to work on this Spyder, right? So I will introduce you to all these IDs, and then you can differentiate or relate to it, so what these IDs are used for. Okay, so let us try to see Spyder. So Spyder, which is supported across all the platforms, that is your Linux, Mac, OS and Windows. It is available as an open source, and it is bundled with Anaconda distribution, which comes with all the Python libraries, right? So now what is this Anaconda distribution, right? So this question I will answer you in a few seconds, or maybe in few minutes, right? So we will see step by step how we can download our Anaconda distribution, how we can quickly write our first hello world program in Spyder. It will have a practical demonstration. So I will give you the practical demonstration. So this I'm theoretically explaining you so that you can relate to it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So this Anaconda distribution I will come up with you in a few seconds or a few minutes, right? Then you will understand. And it is designed for Python as specifically data science or machine learning, all that stuff. Now let us try to see the interface of Spyder. So this is the interface of Spyder. So we will see. So here this is your editor. In editor we will write our code, right? So in this part is a variable explorer in which we could see which part of variable consists of what values. And here this is the console where you can see the output. I have already opened up my Spyder. So this is my Spyder, right? So this I will teach you how you can go through it, how you can install it, how you can start working with it, right? So this step by step I will give you in this demonstration. So this is my editor where I could write some Python code, and this is the console where I could execute my code. The version of the Python which I am using is Python 3.7, right? So we can work with Python 3.8 also, but I am using my earlier version of Anaconda, so that's why it is giving me Python 3.7, right? So here is the variable explorer. Here you can see the variables, and then we can execute our code, right? Okay. So now the next interface is, or next ID is your PyCharm. So this PyCharm is also widely used in the industry. It also supports your Linux, Mac OS and Windows, and it comes under two versions. First is your free and open source, then the other one is the professional, which is your paid version, but it only supports Python, right? So it is also bundled with Anaconda, but you can install it separately also by going to the official website of PyCharm, and you can the PyCharm is given by the JetBeans, right? So there, from there you can download it and then you can start using it. The interface of this PyCharm is something similar to this. Here you have a project in which you could have multiple files in your project in which you are working, and here you could write your code and you can execute and see the output in this Python console. Okay, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Any questions till now? You can raise your voice and you can ask me questions if you have any.
It's okay.
It's okay. Okay, fine. So it also includes the features such as code editor, code completion, unit testing, debugger, version controls, all this stuff. It is included. So all the IDs consist of similar features. So one or the other feature could vary, but ideally all the IDs consist of similar features only, right? So then we come across these Jupyter notebooks. So this is also very interactive and web application in which it interacts with the browser, and we could write the efficient Python code. So these web application allows that creation and manipulation of notebook documents called notebooks, right? And it also supports Linux, Mac OS and Windows, and it is also available as open source, right? So this Jupyter notebook is widely used where you need to do the high computing. For example, your system or your current machine does not support GPUs. So in this Jupyter notebook, you can run on a remote system and then you can efficiently write your code and then you can execute there only. So this is the importance of this Jupyter notebooks. So these are widely used in the case of your data science and high computing algorithms. The interface looks something like this, right? These are called as cells where you could write your code and execute, and you could get the chart, plots, graphs, and you can get visualizations also in case you wanted to visualize something or you wanted to fiddle with your data and you wanted to find some inference with your data, right? Okay, so it supports not only Python but also supports Julia, R and Scala, right? Okay, so the other is your Visual Studio Code. So this is being provided by Microsoft. It is also open source. It's a text and source code editor. It also supports Python, PHP, Java, Node.js, right? So this is also consists of several programming languages you can run and you can write here in this Visual Studio. For the full stack developers, so the first choice is the Visual Studio Code, because they need to interact with so many languages. So for that purpose, Visual Studio is the best, right? So it enables users to install plugins or packages, and packages can be installed for code completion or debugging, right? So this is how your Visual Studio works. So this is the interface similar to your PyCharm only. In this part, your left hand side, it consists of the project structure, and the right hand side consists of your editor, where you could write your code, and in that bottom, this is your console or the terminal where you could see the output, right? Okay, so now the question arises, how to choose the best ID? So I have shown you 3 to 4 IDs, right? So now you might get confused, so what is this ID and how I can start working with these IDs? So which one to use and how to download it, how to install it? So these questions might be arising in your mind, right? So I have given you the gist of different IDs, but it depends on the requirements, right? So working with different IDs helps us understand our own requirement. For example, for the data science or for normal Python, so you could work with your Spyder only, right? For PyCharm also you can work with, but if you are building a web application, so PyCharm is the best or Visual Studio is the best. So it depends, right? So it is not that you cannot work or you cannot write, you can choose anyone according to your own requirements. If you have worked on one of the IDs, it is very easy to work or switch to another ID. Okay, so in this course I will be teaching you Spyder and Jupyter Notebooks, so that you can get an overview of Spyder also and Jupyter Notebooks also. Okay, right?
Yep.
So far good?
Yeah, good.
Okay, so now we have talked a lot, but we haven't seen the implementation yet, right? So now
Yep.
the question arises, how you can download your Python, how you can download your ID, and how you can start working with your first hello world program in Python, right? So this is the challenge which we gonna face. So according to like a newbie, so first of all, what that they will do, first they will go to the internet or the browser, they will start typing download Python, right? So this is the first thing we will do, right? Okay, so once the Python has been downloaded, what you will do, you will say, okay, now download ID, that is your Spyder, right? So you will start working with it, right? So this is the general objective which every newbie will follow, and which every person which is new to Python will do it. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, but I will say, if I will give you a toolkit where you could not only have your Python, you could not only have your IDs, you could not only have your libraries which are additionally provided to you, so that toolkit you can install and you can download, then you could start working on that
Okay.
toolkit, right? For example, in our homes also we have a toolkit, right? For example, for the screwdriver we have a different type of screw, right? So that toolkit consists of different screws and different dimensions, so that we can use according to our own requirements. Similarly, we will not download this, we will download Anaconda.
Okay.
Right? So this is your Anaconda, right? So this is your Anaconda, in which it is a data science toolkit, right? So it consists of all the environments or all the machine learning tools and your models and your everything, right? So this, and it comes under 3 different versions, which is your Windows, Mac OS and Linux, right? So you can click on this and you can start downloading this, right? I have already downloaded this Anaconda Navigator. So basically Anaconda Navigator is a toolkit where you could not only find your Jupyter Notebook, you could not only find your PyCharm, you could not only find your Spyder ID, you also have your Python included in it, right? Once you install this Anaconda, you get all the things along with it, right? So you just need to launch this Spyder ID and start working with it. So I'll click on this. If I click on this, it will open up this Spyder ID, right? So now let us try to see and write here. Let us try to write print hello world and start writing and start executing this statement. So if I click on this run button, what will happen? This statement got executed. It has converted into the bytecode and it has given us the hello world in this console, right? Any doubt?
No.
Okay, so now you can see that how simple is it. You just need not to do or install Python or ID, you just need to install Anaconda. That's it. And Anaconda, you could not only work with Jupyter, you could not only work with Spyder. If you think that my project is something which involves Jupyter Notebook, you can click it here and start working with it. If you think PyCharm, you can work with this PyCharm also, right? So this is how you can write your code, and you can execute here in this particular statement. Okay. Understood?
Yeah.
Any questions?
So I'm using Ubuntu. So I also have Windows, but I prefer to use Linux because I'm just trying to get used to Linux.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, if you are using your Ubuntu, so this is your Linux, right? So this installer for the Windows, you can click on this. For the Mac, I am using Mac OS. So Mac OS is also similar to the Ubuntu system also, right? So in this Mac OS, so I use this 64 graphical bit installer. Here you can use 64 bit graphical installer. You need to click here and then you can install it.
Okay.
Right. So similar operation will follow. Right. So I will guide you for the installation steps also. So this is your installation. So here we have reached this Anaconda. So this is the 3 versions which I've showed you. This Linux, Mac OS and Windows, right? Right. When you click on this Linux, so the in Windows, so this is I'm showing for the Windows because most of the guys have Windows operating system. But if you have Linux, don't worry, it will also install in Linux also. Right. The steps are basically the same, right? So basically a file will be downloaded in your downloads folder. After downloading, so it will come up with this setup. You can click on next also, right? Then license agreement, I agree. Then it is for just me, that is you are using it, right? You can click on the next. If your company system, if you're working with the company systems and it has been you cannot download the additional softwares, then it requires admin privileges. Okay, then this is destination folder which will come by default, so you don't need to change anything. You just need to simply click on the next button. It will automatically take and it will automatically make a folder for you. So you just need not to take or to write something here. And make sure you have a available space because the space might change. So this is my older slide. So newer slide and newer versions are still coming. So this space required might get changed. Okay, so now you don't need to do anything. You just need to click install on that. And after that install, so the process installation will be started and it will take couple of minutes, right? Based on your internet speed. After the installation has been completed, so it will ask for the additional step that if you wanted to install Microsoft Visual Studio Code, or it will ask for the PyCharm, one or the other, right? Either it will ask for PyCharm, either it will ask for Visual Studio. So it depends upon your requirement. So either you can choose your PyCharm, or you can or you wish to not to choose that. Then your setup has been complete. So it will say finish. You click on finish, your setup will get complete. After that, you need to open your Anaconda navigator. Right. So this Anaconda navigator gets opened up, and it will show something like this. So which I have already shown to you. So this is your Anaconda navigator, in which you could have a Jupyter Lab, Jupyter Notebook, PyCharm, Spyder. Okay. So when you click on launch, this will get launched, and you can write your first hello world program, and here you could write it, and then you can execute here, and you can see the output. Any questions?
So for the Linux installation, do I need to follow this step, or I need to, do it via the CLI, via my shell in Linux?
Yeah, you can do both ways also. Right. So you can use the scripting language, that shell command also, and shell also, in where you could type it. So you can simply say download Anaconda via terminal on Ubuntu.
Okay.
Right. So this is the docs. Right. So these are the various packages. So according to your basically operating system, whether it is you're on Debian, Red Hat, Arch Linux, right? So these are the packages which have been installed. Right. So these are being various. So first you download this, and you get you open the terminal, and you type these commands, and then you go to that particular folder where your Anaconda version of Linux has been installed. Right.
Hmm.
Right. So this page or this setup will give you all these necessary steps how you can go it via command line.
Okay.
Okay. So you can follow this official documentation of Anaconda, and then you can start working on it.
But I can as well install it normally without going through the terminal, right? On
Yes.
Linux.
Yes, you can also do that.
Okay.
Okay. So if you have any problem, I can guide you this step by step. So during this course, if you are having trouble with the installation, I can get your machine access, and then we can solve it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So any doubts, any questions you wanted to ask about the course, about what topics we are discussing?